According to the signed topics that we had, seem to be inaccurate at this point in development of students' understanding and a sense of more materials need to be introduced. So I would like to intervene that. So instead tonight we discuss the principles of visualization tonight, which seem to be one of the basic points of the Tantra, is all kinds of principles involved with the visualization. When we talk about the visualization at this point, we are not talking about visualization alone. Audio and state of mind and state of experience in terms of feeling as well at the same time. So we are related with all sense experience, sense perceptions at the same time. Basic notion of a Tantra at this point is that there's a sense of continuity, there's a sense of existence, sense of some kind of reality. It depends on what level you are. If you are already involved in the experience, that there is more sense of experience in terms of reality. Whereas if you have experience of half-hearted approach to reality, then obviously that you're going to have half-hearted result of understanding reality at this point. However, the question here is that the basic sense of being grounded in the body, in your house, in your carpet, in your floor, in your foundation, even though you may be sitting in the motor car, that how you're grounded with the tires and the floor of your motor car. It's very personal and very dynamic at the same time, that how we are grounded at this point, properly, thoroughly, fully, in terms of experience, in terms of actuality, in terms of phenomenal experience of reality as well. That it is absolutely necessary in order to study Vajrayana or Tantric tradition that a person had to be grounded in the body, in person's house, in person's country, in person's earth, on planet Earth. That we are not talking about taking trips to Mars or Jupiter or the moon for that matter. We are talking about working on this planet, so-called Earth. Whether you like it or not, we are on it. And we have to face that. And that suggestion might bring a certain sense of depression, in the sense that not wanting to relate with the earth anymore, except that earth has been glorified in terms of how beautiful the flowers that earth brings, and the greenery that earth brings out, and the waterfalls, and the rivers, and the fantastic mountains that earth has provided. And apart from that, earth seems to be rather hopeless. It's just a solid earth. That we begin to cheer ourselves up constantly by saying, wow, fantastic, I had a trip to the Himalayas. I saw the beautiful mountains of Kanchenjunga, or the mountain Tissé, and all kinds of beautiful mountains. I had a fantastic time. How fantastic they are. Those remarks are comic relief. I visited the Rocky Mountains, I saw the Grand Canyon, I saw the Old Faithful, I saw that, and that's fantastic how it was. And those were just comic relief. That we feel that we are stuck with this earth, therefore we should glorify it in some sense, and we should appreciate it in some sense. But deepest to our heart, we would like to take off. We would like to swim in the cosmos, in outer space. We really do want to do that. Anyone who seeks for spiritual materialism or spiritual entertainment begin to feel that it wouldn't be much better if we could take off from this earth, which is my home ground, our home ground, if we could swim across the galaxies of stars, and then we begin to feel the cosmos properly, and the dancing in the darkness, related with the sun or the earth occasionally. And that desolation seemed to be expected. And you're taking pride in that kind of promise rather, at this point. The question there is certain neglecting process of leaving the home ground, the familiarity of highways, the familiarities of plastic world, familiarity of the pollutions, all kinds of things that we have, which is a part of our endowment living on this earth, whether you like it or not. Such familiarity becomes part of tantric study and the basic level of your state of being. That particular basic state of being is largely grounded on sense of continual experience, continual landmarks of all kinds. Your basic body is a landmark that you've been born on this earth. We don't have to particularly refer back to our birth certificate, make sure that we're born. We know we are here, you know you're here. Your name is such and such, your parents are such and such, and your father called such and such, your mother called such and such, and an uncle called and such and such. You were born in Louisiana, Texas, Colorado, New York City. Great neck. Wherever you were born, that's your birthplace. You are born and raised in your hometown. You're born, you're raised as an infant, you were sent to school, you had to come back home, and then when you're much older, you go to private schools or whatever you have, or what your parents have designed for you. You go to schools and study there, do your little homeworks, and you play your physical gymnastics of all kinds, and you relate with your people, you begin to fight with your students or inmates, and you begin to develop a real boy and or real girl. You begin to become a person, then finally you retire from your school, and then you go to another school, and then you go to another school, and until you when you begin to go to the bigger school, what's called university, and then you begin to really grow up, and you begin to play part in the politics and the philosophy, and as far as our past generations are concerned, the you begin to take LSD and you begin to smoke a dope, hang around, discuss all kinds of details like that, and you begin to feel you are a man of the world. You begin to develop opinions of all kinds. And you begin to criticize your president, your government, and you really grow up. You become a man and a woman, and you really begin to become individual, quite different from the time when your umbilical cord has been cut, and then the rest of the part that is stuck on you begin to dry and fall apart. It was entirely different in those days than what you are now. And now you are a man of the world looking for marriage partners, business work, or at least, drop out of your world to become a free spokesman, a free person, that I don't believe in those fucked up world. Or whatever, that you have your statement, your philosophy, happens already basically. You become man of the world, a woman of the world of the year, if you like. That experience called in tantric language it's Samaya, which means in the important language of Tantra, Samaya, S-A-M-A, Samaya, Y-A, Samaya, which is a basic term that's been presented to tantric experience, is the facts of life, actual experience of life. That whatever you decide to do, all those trips you go through, you try to become individual, personal experience, and you begin to try to fight for personal rights of all kinds, getting away from lovers, parents, political commitment, relationship with your corporation or the church, whatever you try to do, those are the expression of Samaya. And basically, Samaya literally means sacred word. Sacred word. That you begin to live on your own independence. That you begin to reject the interdependency as fast as you can, as hard as you can, although you can't do an absolute good job out of it, nevertheless, which is impossible in fact. But still you do it. That you got out of your system of binding factors, of you be imprisoned by your parents, you be imprisoned by society, you've been imprisoned by your economy, and you've been imprisoned by your religion. So you've been trying to get out of those imprisonments, and those particular experience of trying to get into expressing one's personal freedom, which is called Samaya at this point. Or, for that matter, that you might get into a certain particular church, certain particular social setup by personal choice, which is also expression of freedom because you're never being told to do so, but you're doing it personally as well at the same time. So that expression is also expression of freedom. So that is what's called a Samaya, or the sacred vow, sacred word, that you commit yourself to the word. Either you've been pushed, and then you're going to give up, and then you slowly get into the system, or whether you be pushed, so you reject the whole thing completely, whether you turn communist, or whether you turn atheist, or whatever you have. That some kind of expression of independency in your personal mental function is regarded as what's known as Samaya. That's the basic word in Tantra, is any move you make to join a society, organization, or church without influenced by past history. Your own personal experience led to you that level. Or, for that matter, on the other hand, to break away from anything that you've been trapped in, that you have a personal experience to get away from them, break away from them. And those kind of choices, that is yours, your choice, your personal experience. So therefore it is called a sacred word, or if you like to call it sacred bondage, which is saying the same thing. Samaya literally means sacred word, but it could be interpreted as sacred bondage, that you're creating, you're bounded by a certain particular norm that exists in your experience. Within your experience, you try to get into it. You would like to be tied up, bounded up by a certain systematic process of organizational experiences, whatever you have. In the terms of visualization, you might think this is a very strange idea, how we could relate with the visualizations at this point is concerned, but it seems to be quite simple at this point, actually. When we talk about the notion of visualization, that you visualize what's known as samayasattva. Sattva, S-A-T-V-A, sattva, which sattva literally means being, individual, person. So when we talk about a samayasattva, we are talking about samaya is being acknowledging connections and willing to bow down to certain particular experience of life. Sattva is being who is actually experiencing that situation. So samayasattva at this point is a person who is actually experiencing life and willing to commit, acknowledge, and willing to get into life. In terms of visualization, that samayasattva is what you visualized according to the tantric discipline that you have gone through, the Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana experience. You have gone through that process already, that you are given a certain particular deity that is connected with your own particular makeup, your particular basic being, whether you're an intellectual person, whether you're an aggressive person, or passionate person, or whatever you are. So accordance with your mood, your particular makeup, particular qualities, that a certain particular deities were given to you by a Vajra master who knows you, who experiences you personally, and gives you this particular format, that the person that you're identifying with this, or the divine being, or whatever you like to call it, is related with this deity rather than divine being at this point, is that part of your makeup. If you're aggressively outrageous, or passionately outrageous, or lustfully outrageous, ignorantly outrageous, proudly outrageous, jealously outrageous, whatever your particular basic makeup may be, there is a particular role in your emotions connected with enlightenment. That none of those principles are regarded as hang-ups particularly, but those experiences are related with personal experience of sense of being, sense of existence at the same time. And if you must exist in your lust, let us abide in our lust. If you must exist in anger, let us abide and live in our anger. let us do it. Let us be in that way. And you visualize a certain particular deity which are connected with that particular principles. And having visualized experience of that particular deity, that particular experience, which is called Jnanasattva of your basic being. And then we invite what's called that's called a Samayasattva, by the way, that was a mistake. And then what you invite is what's known as Jnanasattva, which is another being that you're inviting into that particular system, which is another level of experience, which is nothing particularly extraordinary, fantastic, nothing particularly extraordinary as such, but the Jnanasattva you bring within your state, Jnana Jnana means a state of wakefulness, state of openness, whereas the Samayasattva, originally we talked about, which is an experience of bondage, experience of solidification with our experience, basically body or speech. But when we talk about a Jnanasattva means awakening quality from beyond that level, sense of openness, sense of a cosmic principle. But at the same time, when we talk about jnana in this case is the fundamental notion of cynical attitude to life. At the same time, the humorous attitude to life. That doesn't have to be a particularly person being nasty to life, that you are humorous, you laugh at somebody, haha, your trip is fucked up. But humorous, when we talk about a humorous, this case is constant existence of fascination and amused in a very productive level, that you're amused how somebody eats his spaghetti in a very personal way, that watching somebody eat his spaghetti, it seemed to be a very healthy one, at the same time a humorous one, not because the person is funny, haha, in a cheap sense, but a person has the courage to eat his spaghetti in a nice and beautiful way, that he actually tastes the spaghetti and he actually uses it properly, productively. And there is a sense of healthiness, sense of how that person handles his universe properly. That kind of humor, a fascination in the sense that everything's being handled by somebody rather, or the even inanimate level, how the flowers grow, rocks sit, pine trees there. And those things are very unique. Actually happens at that level very personally, very really. And that kind of humor. And that is entirely different area than the basic bondage that we'll be talking about. There is a sense of real experience, real sense that you, when you watch somebody is conducting the affair, they conduct not only just conduct, but they conduct fully, artfully, humorously at the same time. So jnana is wisdom, being wise. Actually, it is more accurate to say being wise rather than wisdom as entity of experience that you might learn. But this case, when we talk about jnana, we are talking about state of being wise, automatic state of experience, personal experience that you feel. Sattva, again, is being, the being aspect of it. So jnana experience expresses sense of being in a humorous and open level. So now we have the two principles involved here. We have a samayasattva of basic being, Jnanasattva of a higher, lofty ideas, maybe some sense. But the idea in this particular tantra, in the ordinary all tantric traditions concerned, is bringing them together. That lofty idea of humorous, experiential in the fullest sense, along with samayasattva, which is a body-oriented, physical-oriented, of existence bringing together in the one level. So visualizations are also connected with that as well. In the level of Jnanasattva, you have another visualization that those who are free from visualization, that you don't have to visualize as such, but they just come along and they just float from the sky and join your own cluttered and clumsy visualization together. They just dissolve into your clutteredness, your clumsiness at the same time. So that seemed to be the whole process, which seemed to be a very important point to understand. Then there's another types of three principles that exist in the tantric traditions, are body, speech, and mind. Experience a relationship with the cosmos, the world. Body, obviously, the sense of shape, sense of color, sense of sound, which seem to be quite simple, that we all seem to know about that. But at the same time, there is a divine aspect, or the transcendental aspect. There is a transcendental aspect of the body, because bodies are not really body. Shapes are not all that much of shape. Sound, sight, colors, touchable objects are not really there, but at the same time they're actually there. That's kind of phenomenal play that we begin to push back and forth. And we usually find ourselves that we either say they're not there, that you hold on that level, that particular metaphysical argument, or else we say they are there. We try to hold on to a definite metaphysical standpoint. But in this case, we can't hold on to either of those. Any of the sense perception or experience that we have, they are there because they are not there. Otherwise, they couldn't exist. They are there because they are dependent on their non-existence. Things can't exist unless they can't exist. They cannot exist. The white poodle crossing the highway is definitely white poodle because she is not black poodle. And there is no highway at the same time. It's very simple logic. In fact, it's a very simple-minded one, actually. That the crescent moon is crescent moon because it is not a full moon. And on those basis of very simple logic that you build enormously fascinated and fantastically sophisticated logic, that I exist because I don't. You exist because you don't. And you exist, I exist because we don't exist. I exist, you exist because I don't exist. It needs some kind of training of system of thinking, but actually it's true. Once we look into that particular situation, the sun is black because it's so bright. And daytime is nighttime because it's daytime, and so forth. Experience of body or shape or form is such hassle to us all the time that we can't solve the problems of logic usually. And now when we talk about tantric level, that logic of this beingness, this actuality of being physically existing here right now, I have my body, I'm fat, I'm thin, whatever. It's begin to become problem. And it's begin to become a source of study at the same time. That the body exists because of its bodiness, which is psychological attitude to bodiness. But then we ask again, what is bodiness? What is bodiness? Tell us about it. Please tell me. Well, it's non-bodiness. I couldn't give you the answer because the answer always runs out. And that seems to be the problem or promise at the same time there. That when we talk about tantric body mandala here is concerned, we are talking about that those play that exist back and forth and back, that things are seemingly there, at the same time they are questionable, which gives enormous ground to work on, that you don't have to work yourself up to limit to your heart and brain to the extreme, that you finally become mad professor of Tantra. But you can work and relate with such experience which is entirely phenomenological rather than existential even. It's a personal experience, much more than existentialists talk about it. It's entirely phenomenological, and again, it transcends the notion of phenomenological experience. Phenomena doesn't exist. Maybe that it could be said as one of the areas of research work, phenomenologicalism. But still, the phenomenology doesn't exist because it's phenomenological research work that has been done in the past hundreds of years by great Buddhist saints, teachers, versatile pundits, and everything. It's been proved. And the next thing is we are talking about is speech, which we are talking about in the same level of phenomenological experience, same logical stance, same experience that we are talking about, but we are talking in a slightly different angle. We are talking in terms of much more movement, much more shiftiness and dance quality than we discussed in the previous experience of body level of phenomenology. We are talking about letter, traditionally it's known as symbols and seed syllables. The mandala of letters. And when we talk of mandala of letters, we are not talking about being a literate, educated person, but we are talking about seeing the world as A, B, C, D. Actually, that phenomenal world that we have experienced spell themselves out into a sentence and letters that we read them, we have experienced them. That's another kind of chakra or mandala we are talking about, sometimes called Sung Doji Chiko, which means that speech Vajra Mandala. That every word is being seen as word of syllables, word of letters, word of syllable. My friend is made out of A. My lover is made out of B, X. My sister is made out of B. My brother is made out of B, A. And there is that kind of, everybody has a symbolism that things stand for their point of reference, but at the same time it speaks of subtle language. That today is B day because sun shines and hot, and tomorrow might become X day because it's raining, and next day might be Y day because it's partly raining and partly okay. And today is extremely KD day that is so cold and snowing. Hopefully we have tomorrow is M day, which is partially warm and cold at the same time. Every word that is made out of syllables from that point of view. Personal experience at the same time. In the Tantric tradition of Sanskrit literature is concerned, that the world is made out of 30 alphabet and something like 16 vowels constitute the world. And that seemed to be the basic part of how we raised up as a child. The children doesn't experience ourselves, particularly right at the beginning of their infancy, up to the age of 8. The children begin to read us. They read it, mommy, they read it, daddy, and they read how we handle ourselves. They watch you read opening your bottle of can. They read how you handle your box of chocolate. They read us unzipping so they could read the same way as you did. So the whole thing that right at the beginning of infancy level, that the children, as we are all children once upon a time, still we are, maybe in some sense, pardon me, is that we learn to read the world. We learn to read our mind, we learn to read books, we learn to read the highways, we learn to read motor cars, how we could drive. And there's constant readings takes place. And we read our faces so we know each other next time who you are, who I might be. We read constantly. As much as we read our books, we read each other. And one of the problems that occur to that kind of level is when we don't have any reading materials, that reading materials that we have already memorized by heart, we panic. We actually panic so much. That's what's called a neurosis, this point of reading world, on tantric level of world of speech. That when anybody runs out of their business of reading, they begin to panic. Or anybody finds that there is spelling mistakes involved, when you become finally smart enough to do that, you cease to take the humorous attitude to it, and we begin to panic. You begin to criticize the editor of that particular journal of the world. The question of reading this point seems to be an interesting point, which is connected directly to the load of speech in terms of transcendental experience concerned. That the sound chakra, people talk about how I have opened my sound chakra, now I can be robust, accurate in what I have to say, and they speak so fast. And there's some kind of reading impediment in that. When somebody who has opened their sound chakra doesn't have to speak so fast, doesn't have to write the poetry suddenly, doesn't have to become a real person in the world of robustity completely. That's something fishy about that, something sacrilegious about disregarding the world mandala of letters, syllables. We could go into this detail and much more, actually dealing with all kinds of psychological systems and so forth, which might need another course actually at this point, but next time. Sorry to interrupt. The next thing is a question of mind, on another level of experience, is concerned. When we talk about a mind in this case, it is a very simple mind, simple-mindedness. In fact, that mind doesn't actually think. but a mind that feels in a haphazard way. Whether you're educated or whether you're not educated, you think, you feel differently. When your mind begins to function, you're so naive. This naivety brings experience of non-existence in a negative sense. That you don't have any guts to realize how phenomenal world is so magical. And the positive experience of that is that the mind which is tuned into the whole possible magical situation of life, that it is open completely, it cuts through the subconscious gossip of a mind. And continuously it creates celebrations of dealing with life. Directly, simply, all the emotions may be involved, all kinds of experience may be involved with life, but simply it takes place of its own and relates with that, quite simply. I think we have covered a certain amount of basic ground tonight, and maybe I shouldn't confuse you too further. We could have a discussion period.
I'm not at all sure of the quote that I'm about to quote, and may be entirely mistaken, but I believe that in the Dharmapada, Buddha said that if it has anything to do with body, it's not what the Master meant. If that quote is correct, is that related with a difference between the Hinayana and the Tantric approach, or am I misquoting?
Well, Buddha again also said to Ananda that if you don't have a body, he said actually not in the body, but he said at the beginning, if you don't have food, you don't have a body. If you don't have a body, you don't have a dharma. That was the quotation that when Ananda personally was into a fasting trip, that the Buddha corrected this particular arahat, his tenant. I think personally that if a body could be worked on as a real experience, rather than the body is purely a channel, which has been said a lot lately. The body is purely a channel, that it's not important, but we should take care of our channel, our pipeline. We should oil our pipeline. And that seems to be the wrong attitude, actually. And we could say the body is the real experience of spirituality, rather than purely being channel. Body is body, and spiritual body at the same time. And I think there's a big misunderstanding taking place regarding the body as just a mere non-existence, a pipeline that it goes between samsara and nirvana.
I have two questions. One is regarding the relationship of the Samayasattva and the Jnanasattva. You said that at some stage they were both brought together and integrated into a whole life experience, if I understood you correctly. And is this associated with the symbol of the Yabyum? And is there some correspondence of the Samayasattva as the feminine aspect and the Jnanasattva as the masculine aspect or something like that?
Well, Samayasattva is regarded as both masculine and feminine principle. It depends on what kind of Samayasattva you have. And the Jnanasattva is equally the same thing. So I think the basic point here is that none of them regarded as a level of mating period or courtship period particularly, but it is actually a body orientation. When Samayasattva meets Jnanasattva, that's orientation, that you have a body and therefore you should have a mind at the same time. It's an orientation process rather than sexual, whatever sense may be, situation in terms of using each other as partners, which are not quite yet developed at this point. Before you do that, you have to have a proper coordination. That you should have your brain, you should have your body. If you want to make love, you should have a coordination of the whole thing. Otherwise, you find yourself paralyzed in bed.
Well, thank you. I was I was speaking more in terms of the various types of deities that are used in the visualization.
They are just the principles, the beings, which present themselves, which is a combination of feminine and masculine principles at the same time, equally.
Okay. My second question is about the word or the seed syllables, and I wonder if you could say anything about the practical use of these in meditation.
We could discuss that later on.
Rinpoche, could you describe in detail what's involved in the process, the experience of reading, whether it be a book or the world, the encounter of the observation with something else?
You read the world, you read the book. It's the same thing. I'm sorry. Do you have any more to say about that?
No, that's not exactly what I meant. When your eyes move over the page, it's not exactly a new encounter. Some of those symbols you know beforehand, you don't know the sense of it exactly. Sometimes it's as though you've read it before, you memorized it and you're just repeating it. And sometimes it's as though your eyes physically don't want to move because it's too different an encounter, too jerky. This is that type of experience is what I'm asking about.
Well, you did the same thing when you experience in your life. And I think that when you begin to feel there is an interesting point which is challenging you, you don't just read fast, you just pause. When you begin to find that there's something familiar already and you want dying to get to the next paragraph, you rush. And that same thing happening with life as well at the same time. that one is constantly looking for security, entertainment all the time, that we don't read pages of our life properly. That seems to be the problem.
Is speech connected or related somehow to the space of sound, which comes out of the experience of body?
I think so, yes. Well, as you read, ideas you read aloud. Whether mentally or physically, you read aloud anyway. You hear yourself reading. Always say, one doesn't do that otherwise. One can't do it otherwise. You can't just read discreetly because you hear yourself reading anyway. That's what basically the whole point of reading cosmos. Picking up your steak and your pear and your apples in the supermarket is very loud proclamation.
Does that then in some way say that the experience of body is the ground for the experience of speech and mind, or are they all the ground?
Individually. That you have to concentrate on one particular area. You have to improve your reading ability. You have to improve your body ability. That's why there are levels of tantric disciplines involved with that.
Is there a sequence from one to the other?
Start with the body, then with the reading.
I have a question about the poodle crossing the road. A white poodle is a white poodle because it's not a black poodle. And therefore, it's a white poodle because it's not a white poodle. Does that mean that existence is not existence? Is it that what you're saying?
White poodle is not white poodle because it's blackness. Therefore, white poodle is white poodle. That's that I don't know whether you have understood the basic logic or whether that's the extent of the logic.
It seems with the black poodle and the white poodle, you've got a duality, which is necessary.
No, we're not talking about the duality there. We are not talking about that level. We are talking about simple logic, extremely simple logic. That white poodle is not white poodle because its whiteness depends on the blackness. Therefore, the white poodle is not white poodle because it depends on the blackness. Therefore, from that point of view, white poodle is white poodle because it depends on the blackness. It comes back. It's very simple logic. We're not talking about non-duality or anything like that. It's Buddhist shit. Gentlemen, maybe we should close a meeting tonight. Thank you.